in the other window here,
It ain't happening now. We see you at about a size 10 and a half right now.
but
Here we are again, another beautiful night on this globe, on this planet, 18th galaxy, and Polka Dot Rabbit podcast here. Your Brozo here, and I have a very, very, very special guest. I can say definitely a friend. We're gonna go back, as y'all see. I like to do my music thing with individuals that I respect and respect their opinion and all the good stuff, respect their musical taste and etc. My man, Shahjehan Khan, um, Pakistan, correct, sir?
yeah, via Boston,
Via Boston, yeah,
Pakistan. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
So good to be here.
So
Thank you for having me.
anytime, brother. And yeah. So you already know if you haven't already. If you haven't, please go to polka dot rabbit podcast.com. Pick up the book, Bicultural Living and Leaving the World of Illusions. This people a lot of people always ask me why and how things are so diverse on my in my life, not only on the podcast, but if you read the book, it'll all make sense, I promise you. polka dot rabbit podcast.com. And that's enough for me. Well, let me say this, as always, Polka Dot Rabbit podcast is here to uplift humanity. And in this instance, we're going to music tip because music is something near and dear to me. Been a musician for a while and met a lot of amazing people on that journey. This individual here is one of them. So that's it for me, brother. Please go ahead.
Yeah,
Tell them who
man.
you
It's
are, what you do, and
it's really great to be here. Yeah, my name's Shahjahan. And just before we can, I can't seem to turn the volume all the way off on my phone. Is it like
yeah,
bleeding through?
no, no,
No, are you
it'll be
good?
good
Okay,
enough. Yeah,
no
yeah.
worries. Yeah, man. My name's Shahjahan Khan. I'm based in Boston. Man, I guess I met the guy that is on the other screen here 13 years ago. I think we were trying to figure this out just a
Yeah,
couple
yeah,
weeks
yeah,
back when you
yeah.
messaged me on a tour of the country with my punk band that was, I believe we were traveling in a Honda Civic Hybrid at the time,
Mhm.
if
That
my
sounds
memory
right.
serves me correctly. So it was like, yeah, it was on the tail end or either the beginning or the end of one of our first kind of bigger US tours. Yeah, man, I'm a guitar player, actor, voiceover artist, very professional, as you can tell by the sock over my microphone. Um, but but yeah, still do a ton of music. And yeah, that's kind of a little bit about me.
Yeah, this tour, if y'all and for the people that are watching, this was when I was in my black rock band, Amul Nine down in Atlanta, and I think we started the tour. I think we caught it. We linked up with y'all the tour in Atlanta, and we went up to New York. I think it was
That's right. That's right. It was
Atlanta,
Atlanta, and then we went up to. That's right. That's right.
DC. After DC was New York, and I think y'all kept on going to Boston.
Yeah,
Um,
that
yeah, but
sounds
we
right.
yeah. But great times, excellent, excellent experience, and we met a lot of good people on that tour. So
Yeah,
man, let's get into it, man. Let's get
sure.
into it. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, Pakistan, you are Muslim, correct? Or you
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
I think so. It's like I was talking with a friend about this yesterday who actually he might have been on part of that same tour, not the one that you were on.
Mhm.
He's in a band in Detroit called Obelisk, really really cool band.
Mhm.
Um, it's a thing that like it's hard to fully like let go because it's I
Mhm.
don't know if you can identify with any of this in a way because all these different sort of identities and the ways that we identify ourselves are like what they
Mhm.
are. And then at least for me as I've grown and I've aged and I literally did a whole podcast about this, my story, like my
Yeah.
narratives journey and everything. Um, I think at the core, like I'm cool. Yeah, I'm cool with calling myself Muslim. It might not be in the same way that other people might
Yeah.
consider themselves, but yeah, I think I am. In some ways I am, in some ways I'm not. I also ironically just came from like the most Muslim thing you can do, which is going to Mecca. I went with my
Mhm.
mom just about a month ago, and
Mhm.
it was like a interesting experience. It was also a difficult experience in many different ways, just because
Mhm.
being like in Saudi Arabia, it's kind of like a
Mhm.
crazy place.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah,
You did
so I think
Hajj?
that
You did Hajj?
I did Umrah, which is like
Oh, you
Hajj
did Umrah.
light.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, which is,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like you can it's kind of the off-season version, so you don't
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
Hajj happens like once a year.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Um,
Once a year. That's right.
yeah, and it was more to kind of spend time with my mom. And definitely while I was there were parts of it that were cool and all that for sure and meaningful, but I have to say that like there was a lot of stuff about it that didn't really appeal to me, and like I definitely went with
Mhm.
an open mind. But just like yeah, there was some stuff that made me kind of a little actually which it was initially quite difficult, but upon coming home, I sort of realized that, like, it's more about kind of it's always been, like, what's inside for me personally,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
direct personal stuff, so that's kind of it's always been the most important to me, and whatever that means to you can interpret that, like, however you
Yeah.
want, but, if so that's a very complicated answer to the question that you asked me,
Yeah,
but
yeah. No,
I am or
because no,
not
I mean,
Muslim.
it's interesting you say that because obviously, if you're a punk rocker and you're Muslim, you know what I mean. There's gonna be, you know, what I'm saying
I
some,
mean, in some ways, yes and no. Like it's one
hmm
thing that we realized, when we were touring with you guys, and even since then, like that whole idea, this very kind of Western notion of like
hmm
putting these ideas of like, oh, this is whatever, like weird and it's sexy and it clashes with this identity because like,
hmm
oh, this, like with us back then, it was like, oh my god, a Muslim punk band, like
Yeah, yeah,
even though
yeah,
that's not
yeah,
even all we were,
yeah.
like even though like we weren't certainly not the first people to like do anything like that, but it was
hmm
just this thing that seemed cool in this post 9/11 media landscape. Um,
hmm
but yeah, that's like a whole other, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah. Next
discussion.
round two,
Yeah.
round two.
Yeah,
So,
and yeah, go ahead.
no, no. So how was it like growing up? You know, in the states, being Muslim, like just growing up. How was that your experience?
Yeah, well, I
Like
mean,
younger. Up in.
sure. For me, I mean, in my specific instance,
hmm
I grew up in an extremely like non-diverse, pretty white suburb of
hmm
Massachusetts.
hmm
So it was that on one side, and on the other side, like was my parents' Pakistani community, and like for me, Muslim community essentially was a very limited identity, even within itself. Even though we went
hmm
to the mosque was essentially at that time with South Asians, um, Arabs, a few like people possibly from the African continent in
hmm
different countries there, but like
hmm
very very sparingly. There was a handful of masjids around the Boston area that we went to.
hmm
My parents specifically, we didn't have many ties to like the to some of the other mosques in like Roxbury and Dorchester. I mean, we did like by name, but as far as like people that we would like actively hang out with outside of the mosque, like my
Yeah.
idea of Muslims and stuff was very limited to like South Asian middle to upper middle
Mm.
class. I want to make sure to add that element in there too. So
hmm
in that sense, and like for me, the dual identity stuff was a problem. It's not all. It depends. Like some people are very good at straddling the two. In my case, it was just like I just found it very hard to be one thing during the week and one thing on the weekends, and I could just can never
hmm
meld the two. So like, and then I was starting to get into music. I was starting to like
hmm
smoke weed and stuff. So like
hmm hmm
all the, so it very quickly it became segmenting these different parts
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
self.
yeah, yeah,
So what wasn't easy. In the same way that it's not easy to be a lot of different non-norm things,
yeah, yeah.
in the US.
Was I
Yeah.
mean, like, since you went to like a majority Caucasian school, was it a lot of
Mhm.
bullying or teasing? Did it
I
was that
mean,
type of
it
situation?
wasn't it was a good amount. Yeah, I mean, I would say, yeah, definitely stuff that you realize later, a
Yeah,
lot
yeah.
of like what and now we have vocabulary, things like
Mhm.
microaggression and these things that we
Mhm.
didn't even know what
Yeah,
these
yeah,
were,
yeah, yeah.
growing up, or why do you have this nickname? How come no one pronounces your name properly?
Mhm.
Um, in my series, my name Shahjehan means king of the world. So my
Mhm.
podcast is called King of the World.
Mhm.
It's like a 7-part narrative series, and it's a lot of it is about identity and name, and just this idea that I was too embarrassed to like correct people
Mhm.
when to like say my name because I like wanted
Mhm.
my name to sound whiter, so my nickname was like
Mhm.
Saj, you
Mhm.
know. Um, so I mean,
Yeah.
what about for you? Like, what were things like
I mean,
what did
yeah,
your community look like?
I talked. It was a little bit more diverse, but I talk about it a lot in my book. But it was,
Yeah.
it was. See, I grew up in Maryland originally,
Mhm.
and Maryland was very diverse. And I think when I
Yeah.
went to school, I saw every single, I live right outside of D.C. In
Mhm.
PG County, Prince George County.
Mhm.
So very diverse. But then I moved to Virginia, we're in the suburbs, and it like went from diverse to like just everything white,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
just anything small sprinkles or anything else. So just like you just said, I didn't real. I mean, you realize stuff. You go through the stuff at that time just in life, but then later on you're like, oh my God, they did that. That happened. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So same thing you're saying. A lot of that in retrospect, looking back, it was a lot of jacked up stuff. You know what I mean? That ex- had to internalize later on.
Mhm.
But no, it was we probably dealt with the same thing, except instead of hearing the word coolie, you heard nigger. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like
Mhm.
same racism. You know what I'm saying? Same slurs,
Mhm.
same all that kind of craziness. Um, like I said, I'm sure we dealt with some of the similar things. I'm certain.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And and also just getting into like you were saying how well we haven't got there yet, but just how like later on how punk rock really gave me that voice to express my anger. You know what I'm saying? As a young
Mhm.
man going through all this, you know what I'm saying? So I'll
Mhm.
always give props to punk and hardcore and all that stuff because of that. You know what I'm saying? Because
Mhm.
I tell people all the time, if I wasn't doing something like this and you having somebody going on like hearing you, I wouldn't be authentic to who I am as a person, and how I got here. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So yeah. So oh yeah, I'm gonna press the tab button, go forward a little bit.
Yeah,
And I
yeah, of
know I
course.
think briefly, I think I saw something on your podcast, and I always like to just ask people's perspective about the situation when
Mhm.
9/11 happened. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, I remember I had a friend when after 9/11 happened. They were a friend of the family, and I can't remember where they were from. They might have been from Pakistan, actually, if I think about it. Um, anyway, they were a married couple, and they were like, she said to me, she goes, after 9/11, she said something like, we were treated like a Negro. You know what I mean? Like meaning that she was just like she felt the way that we got treated as black people as a Muslim after 9/11. She said it just straight blatant. She was like, "Damn, it was jacked up." So how was that after? You know what I mean? That once that went down.
I mean, I feel like the way I might not have said it exactly the way that she said it,
Mhm.
but, I I think that, like, a lot of us maybe woke up to something that, like, perhaps other folks that had been dealing with for, like, many years, just the idea
Yeah.
that, like, "Oh, we're not, like, white." Like, I think especially it was quite easy for, again, I'm speaking for myself, like, middle to upper middle class South Asians living in, like, suburbs and stuff, just to kind of, like, blend in, do all the, like, model minority stuff,
Mhm. Mhm.
that you hear about, until that day, all of a sudden, it's like, "Oh, wait, no, we don't really,
Mhm.
like, belong
They took
here
your card
even."
away. They took your card away.
Yeah, man.
They
So,
took your
like,
passing card away.
yeah, right? So, like, I mean, I was yeah, and I talk about in my show too, I was, it was like the second week of like my senior year of high school. I'm just about to
Mm.
turn 18. You're dealing with all sorts of other shit anyway, and then this fucking thing happens. Um, and yeah, I mean, overnight it was never the same, and
Yeah,
it
never the
hasn't
same.
really been the same since.
Yeah, yeah.
So and I could
I
go
can
into
see that.
various levels of all that,
Mhm.
but yeah, it was tough then. It was definitely like kind of yeah. It's never really. I mean, it's never really gone away. It just I feel like it comes and goes in
Yeah, yeah,
waves with
yeah,
that
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, I could
I
see
think
that.
there's definitely elements of it which had existed before, but that was just such a literally like earth-shattering, paradigm-shifting,
Mhm. Mhm.
world-altering, of course of
Mhm.
history event that, of
Yeah.
course it wasn't. Things weren't gonna be the
It's
same.
so crazy, man, because I even think about it my end, like going back in my mind, it's like I remember I just thought I looked at everything differently. As far as
Mhm,
like, you know what I mean? Because this was before I started studying Islam, you know what I mean? I think at
mhm,
that time I was getting introduced to it. No, 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 I take that back. It was I was introduced to it, but I was introduced to it from a kind of a different, more black perspective. So I couldn't connect
yeah,
you know what I mean? I couldn't connect the Asiatic, so to speak, or the Indian aspect to it. I couldn't connect that.
mhm.
You know what I mean? Um,
It's
but I
funny,
mean,
so, I mean, a few years later, I was also introduced to started to get introduced to that side of it
yeah.
as well through,
Mhm.
some friends of ours and everything,
Mhm.
and it was actually, like, a really cool, eye-opening, and, like, what the hell, nobody
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah. Yeah.
we
Yeah. Wait,
know
we hear
about,
about this?
like, yeah, other than, like, yeah, everybody knows who, like, Malcolm X was or whatever, but, like,
Mhm.
spending time with the 5 percenters, or, like,
Yeah. Exactly.
learning all that stuff was just, like, was cool, and it was also because it was at the I think for a lot of us, it was like a soul-searching time, but, like, what is this thing? Like, we're not this thing that everybody says that we
Yeah.
are, and, like, and then all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, wait, this isn't just, like, one thing.
Yeah.
It's, like,
Yeah.
a million things to a million people," and,
Mhm.
so,
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Introduced to
yeah,
different denominations, so to speak, of it, or
yeah.
different branches of Islam. Yeah, I was as well. I was introduced early to the 5%. And shout out to all the gods of the earth. Yeah, and did Mike Muhammad, did he get you into it? Was that
Yeah, so that's
he
kinda
introduced?
how, I mean, our band definitely, like, started around that time when we had, like, read his book and stuff, and,
Hmm.
yeah, we all became, really tight, and we started going on, like, crazy adventures together, and, yeah, he was definitely, like, still consider him, like, a very, very dear, dear friend. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I think I stayed actually with him when we were in New York. Actually, yeah, I think he was
Oh,
staying with
wow.
like an apartment. Yeah, I think he was staying in an apartment. Like I think he's about just to get married or something like that.
Oh,
Um,
wow, okay, yeah, that
yeah,
makes
yeah.
sense.
You
Yeah, yeah,
see,
yeah,
and
yeah, his
you
partner, yeah,
know,
because he's from upstate New York, his partner's
yeah.
from, yeah, 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 that makes sense.
Yeah, it's so funny because we were, and I think I can't remember shit. I can't remember if I talked about it in this book or my next coming book, but we were taking the train because we were taking the train. I had to go to the airport, and he said to me, like, just as honest and plain inside, he was just like, because Obama was the president at the time,
Oh,
and
wow.
he
Yeah.
said he told me a story. He's like, yeah, man, I was on the plane one time. I looked over and I saw this black guy next to me, and he was just like, "That's the first time I ever saw like a black person like being equal to me because Obama was put as president." You know what I'm saying? He was just
Oh,
being
wow.
honest and real. I was just like, "Dang, that's kind of
Yeah.
deep. It's honest." You know what I'm saying? It's real. But
Mhm.
coming from that perspective, I could obviously I don't I don't agree with it, but he wasn't even coming in from a nasty way. He was coming from um an eye-opening way and an
Right.
open perspective, not not hating or anything like that.
Mhm.
But we talk about it and stuff, but it really made me think about how the way people look at people. You know what I mean? When it comes to race, on a different level.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, um, yeah, so tab button again.
Mhm.
Well, actually, I'm gonna tab back. You said you
Shift
were in
tab.
high school. Yeah, shift tab. Yeah. Um, how did you get introduced to punk?
Actually, so mine was a delayed introduction. So I was not introduced to it until it was my bandmate Basim,
Hmm.
who
Shout out, Boston.
made me. He basically made me I tell this story a million times, but he made me like
Uh,
a CDR, kind of back in the day when people burned CDs of just like this is the basically I ran into I both of us had dropped out of college. I had a bunch of the early signs of addiction and stuff, mental health things, and so I dropped out of
mm,
college a couple times. We both kind of ended up at the local community college,
mm,
um, and we, yeah, and we were both sort of, and both were like we'd known each other several years before that. We kind of, we had hung out a couple times and jammed here and there, but nothing had really come of it. But then we both met up, and yeah, he just started. He was like the cool, charming dude, who just like knows all the cool music and stuff. And I
Mm-hmm.
was just ready to kind of do something new. And yeah, he just like totally turned my whole musical world upside down. And right away we started writing music. But yeah, that's how first heard of like you know everything, Bad
Mm-hmm.
Brains, the all that's
Mm-hmm.
Dead Kennedys, everything.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's
yeah. So
because of
Bossum,
this one man.
Bossum brought it
Yeah.
into you.
Yeah, if it wasn't for him, I don't think I would have ever, come across listen to punk.
Oh,
So, yeah, but
okay.
but nah, so I
They're
was
saying somebody said
20.
they can't on your IG. They say you can't hear you. I cannot hear him. Are you muted?
Oh.
No. I actually I think.
Oh, yes. I am so sorry I had muted my phone thinking that,
Oh Lord have mercy.
I, was muting the voice. Hopefully, people can hear me now. Oh,
Yeah,
so
that's
sorry
cool.
about that.
Appreciate you. I didn't see who it was. They off the
It
screen now, but
was
somebody just
Bar
said
Pamela Barrow. Thank you, Pamela. Hope you can hear me
Pamela.
now.
Shout out
Thank
Pamela.
you. Shout out
Thank you.
Pamela.
Yeah, because we would have known if
And
she would have
sorry to the
said that.
guests
We'd
for the last 21 minutes who didn't hear shit. Oh my god.
well,
Okay.
I mean, yeah, well, that's a
Yeah.
different story. So Bossum got you into it. So
Yeah.
what was your first taste of punk rock? You know what I'm saying? Hardcore or whatever. What was your first
It's
taste of it?
hard to man. I wish I could remember exactly. I know that CD is somewhere, probably at my parents' house or something, but
Hmm.
I'm gonna say probably somewhere between the Dead Kennedys and like the Clash, Sex Pistols, Bad Brains. Um, and then I definitely started going to. He was in another band at the time, like a goth punk band.
Hmm.
Um, and then when him and I started playing, he had this other friend, James, and the three of us, and Mike actually,
Hmm.
we would all kind of go to shows and stuff together. Because Mike we'd got in touch with him, and then we were, he came up to Boston to meet us, and I remember the first time meeting him,
Hmm.
and then yeah, we just hung out. We would go to shows and stuff. So I guess my first impression was like I'm sure I was, like, scared because I was kind of a dork, like, I was, like, coming from, classic rock and
Hmm.
Hendrix and
Led
stuff,
Zeppelin
and
and
not, like,
the
a dork,
Doors.
but I was definitely, like, a square. I wasn't a dork,
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean? Like, I was
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
yeah, like, fearful, anxious, anxious dude. So,
Hmm.
but I think I did start to kind of fall in love with just the idea of the just that, whatever, the attitude of it that,
Yeah,
it's not
yeah, yeah.
it's not so much about like it's not, and I don't say this in the way that everybody's like, oh, anybody can do it means it's not hard, like talent or anything like that. It's not that at all. It's more just like
Mhm.
the like unabashed, you know, just yeah.
Is your phone doing something funny? Because it keeps on my end saying reconnecting. Or can you see that?
Oh,
Does it say
I
anything?
guess you are frozen.
I'm frozen on
Let's
my
try
end.
one more. Yeah,
Okay.
you are frozen. Here, what if I
Oh, I'm
request you
frozen.
again?
All right.
Yeah,
Let me
hang on.
see. Let me see something. Because I'm not on my end. I'm not frozen. But hold on a second.
What if I leave and rejoin your
Yeah.
thing?
Let me see.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay.
Okay, now you're fine.
I'm fine now.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let me
Oh wait,
hold on a second.
we'll get out of here.
Why is it saying reconnecting? That's strange.
And I will come back to you.
Let me see what it says here. Did it?
Okay.
Did it give me
Yeah,
the?
I'm sending you a new request.
Let me. Okay, I see it, but that's odd. I might have to. We might have to. We might. Have to, I'm gonna go out and just come back in. Yeah. Let me just do that because
Okay.
this thing saying yeah because it's saying it's. In the meantime, we'll continue. So
Yeah, you want me to quit as well? Okay. Cool.
yeah. It's doing something funny on my end. I'm not really sure why.
No
I'm
worries.
gonna go out back going. So um yeah. So that was your. Wait a minute. So that was your first taste. Okay, here we go. That was your
Yeah.
first. What did you think when you first heard it? That's the question. Like when you first heard whatever you heard, you like, yo, what in the world is it? Like, what was your initial reaction?
I mean, honestly, it's hard, man. I just don't remember like the first, I just I like I feel like what comes to mind is probably like sitting in a car and definitely like it not being what I was used to, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
definitely being like just different.
hmm
Um but I just can't remember exactly like what I wish I could remember what was the first, like the first song or something like
hmm
that. But
Yeah, okay,
I
okay.
do I do remember definitely like hearing the Dead Kennedys for like some of those early times and definitely Bad Brains
Okay.
and
Yeah, yeah,
feeling
yeah.
like, oh, this is some fucking like badass shit. Like
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah, yeah.
and I feel like maybe had I been introduced to it earlier on, I wouldn't have been ready because I was kind of like a sort of a nerdy, like guitar shredder type
hmm
wannabe person. And, like it wasn't, so yeah, I think that it was like the right time for me to hear that kind of music.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I as well was kind of. I always listen to music, but I never went to the straight up, punk world until I would say right after high school. You know what I mean? Like directly after high school. I always played music. I mean, I used to hear it and everything, but I never really I could I couldn't relate to it. Maybe that's a better way to put it. You know what I mean? I couldn't relate to everything you're talking about, like the attitude, the
Uh,
sound. The message. I think, like we said earlier, once I started going through that stuff and started really getting pissed off about life, you know what I'm saying?
mhm,
That's when it connected. Cause like hip hop was like that as well, but hip hop wasn't it hip hop at that time was more conscious, and the music itself obviously is not heavy. You know what I mean?
mm,
You don't have like, you know what I mean? It's not, you might have that type of anger, but it's a different type of anger. You know what I mean?
mhm.
That anger coming with like punk rock and hardcore, it was like, you know,
Yeah,
perfect.
and that's a really good. I feel like that's a good point because like I think for me at that point, when I was getting introduced to punk music, I had left high school, right, and I was
Mhm.
starting, and I had been through some like mental health shit,
Mhm.
and so I was and I'd started to, I think I'd started to go to therapy and stuff, and like stuff was kind of coming up that I had
Mhm.
maybe repressed in high
Yeah,
school,
yeah, 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 yeah.
and the news was fucking happening
Mhm.
post 9/11. So
Mhm.
like that so I was definitely I feel like maybe I was starting to feel an anger that had been placated with, in my case, like a shitload of cannabis for
Yeah,
many,
yeah,
many
yeah.
years.
Mhm.
And so finally things were starting to come out.
Mhm.
So it was like the right time to hear that kind of
Yeah.
music, you know.
And when now and were you able to was it therapeutic? You know what I mean? The music itself, was it therapeutic, would
Yeah,
you say?
man. Yeah, and then definitely like once we started playing,
Mhm.
it was awesome. It was like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and I haven't really like looked back since. I mean, I definitely like I played in some bands in high school and stuff, but they were, more like cover bands, and it wasn't really about expressing yourself and your like identity, like we were basically like my band in high school. I mean, it was fun and everything, but like we were like basically just like covering Incubus and Weezer and like, those kinds of bands. And we wrote a couple of our own songs and stuff just about like high school angst and girls or whatever. But it was not, then all of a sudden, I run into this guy who's like, "No, let's like start a band and like talk about, you know, this this like identity type stuff." And it was like
Mhm.
incredible, you know.
Mhm.
And then when people started to like respond to it, that was like a whole other thing.
So that's the kind of chronological order of how the Caminas came into existence. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, man.
Mhm.
Basically, yeah, we both just kind of met up after high school and in college, and yeah, that's just kind of how it happened. And that's when we met Mike and stuff, and then we um first it was just kind of Bossum and I writing some stuff, and then uh, we went through a couple of other bandmates. Then we finally settled on these two brothers who were also from Massachusetts, Bengali brothers,
Mhm.
Arjun and Karno, and yeah, we just were kind of like off and running and writing shit,
Mhm.
you know, and right away also because of the way the media landscape was, people wanted to write
Yeah.
about us. We didn't even have an album, and people
Yeah. I
were
remember that.
interviewing us, and we're getting articles and all this shit, and then just it's just like everything is kind of like getting a little out of hand, and.
Yeah. Yeah. That had to be okay. So before I get into that, because I know that's gonna be fun, man. It just
Mhm.
I can't wait to hear that. How about
Just so you
um
know, now it says that you are not live anymore, so if you want,
yeah,
we
yeah,
could
I'm not
we
yeah,
can
I had to, I
retry
just
it.
yeah, I redid my
Okay.
phone, so I had to it was doing
Okay.
something crazy. I don't know what the hell it was doing, so
That's
I
all
just
good.
restarted it. So so the people that don't know, could you explain like the whole taco court thing, who the Caminas are, all that? Um and so because people for the first time that might not even know that you're in the band and why why you're on here, etc. Kind of
Mhm.
give some the backstory. Actually, hold on a second. I'm waiting for my app to go up. I want to get this. But yeah, like I said, give us the backstory. I'm about to go live now, so hold on one second.
Okay.
Let's take a look here. Yeah, give us the backstory how that, like you said, the Caminas. There we go. Hold on a second. I'm almost there, sir. Bear with me. How the Caminas went on. Okay, I should be going live. There we go. Bam. Um, let's see, checking connection. But yeah, just tell them, the folks. Okay, so I'm live now, so we should be able to get
Okay,
in.
let's see. One sec. Let's just do
Gotta love
this.
technical difficulties. It's a beautiful thing.
It's all good. All right. Now I'm going to connect to you. Okay. And
Oh, there you are.
requests to join.
Hmm.
All right.
Okay,
Let's
there you go.
try
You
this
should
one
be
more
in.
time.
Yeah, let's try this one more time, like you said. So, yeah, so like I'm gonna wait a little bit before, make sure that you're in and everything. But yeah, Takwa
Okay, there we
Core. Okay, are you in that? You in the house now?
go. Almost.
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 Oh, I think I see
All
you
right, there we
bubbling.
go.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, let's
Okay,
turn
we're
our
back.
volume down. Yeah, we're back. Let me
We're
turn the
back,
volume down.
I
But
think.
we're not muting.
No, we're
We're
not.
just
We're not muting this time.
um yeah, so oh yeah, so I think I'm loud. Okay. Turn mine down. So yeah, so Takwa Core. I mean, is that you being because I can hear the echo on my end.
Yeah, mine doesn't. I was saying it doesn't
It doesn't
go
go all the way down.
down
Okay, yeah, yeah.
all
Just
the
turn out as
way.
low as you can. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine. Um,
Okay.
just go as low as you can. It's all good. So
Okay.
Takwa Core, the Caminas. Could you kind of
Mhm.
paint a picture of how you already talked about kind of
Yeah,
how it started
sure.
with yeah. Uh-huh.
Sure. Basically, I mean, so our buddy Mike Knight, he wrote this book, The Taco Cores, which is about a fictional Muslim punk house. A bunch of people kind of read the book, and then around the same time, like we started this band. Definitely after reading that, but also just because we were kids who wanted to like start a band, and then we like a few other people. This is around the time of MySpace,
Mm-hmm.
myspace.com, if people remember MySpace. So a bunch of people started like connecting that way. But then also like the media sort of invented a scene.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say it wasn't a scene, but it also like was sort of overblown in a way
Mm-hmm.
to sort of create this media narrative, which kind of kept feeding
Mm.
itself.
Wow.
So, and in retrospect, look, man, I'm almost 40. eh, all musicians, I feel like, complain about stuff about like, oh man, we were labeled this and that, and I wish that people didn't do this or that. Or and yeah, at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day, like I'm thankful that we
Yeah, of
uh
course.
our music has meant stuff to people, and it's definitely whatever it is. But it's just it's always important to have those distinctions just because, we always had non-Muslim members of the band, and it
Mhm.
was like hard for them to be um, cast in this light, as this like, you know, it's this Muslim punk man, but also we're not just that, but and then all of a sudden we're all supposed to be like labeled in the same way.
Mhm.
Again, what like artist hasn't complained about like the way they've been labeled or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm totally
Exactly.
conscious of that. But yeah, so all this stuff was going on, and it was but that's kind of how our band, the Caminas, and a few others like rose to like prominence. We were definitely like covered in way more media stuff than we it was crazy. Like, we before we even had an album, we were in like Rolling Stone and on the front page of like CNN.com or just all this, but more of the and it was hard because you were kind of like, is this just like, are people interested in the idea of us, or is it the music? And but yeah, that's kind of and I think that's when we would have met around our second album,
Mhm.
which was kind of the follow-up to the first one. And we're just like at the same time we're like young people trying to find our place in the world and like write, as I said, writing music about identity when you're not even exactly sure like where you fit in all of that. And that's kind of like, it's not just with, I think with a lot of maybe music scenes, people that have ever been like a music scene can possibly relate to like, you know, it's like the scene is a thing, and then people start talking about the scene, and then the people that were like in the scene are like pissed that people are talking about the scene or whatever. And then like,
Mhm. Mhm.
you don't even know like up from down or whatever. I'm totally like oversimplifying it. But anyway, like look, it I got to do some really amazing stuff, in
Mhm.
music. Got to like meet people all over the country. We later toured kind of, outside of the US as well. Um, and we've got 5 albums, in the last 18 years. We're still a band. Um, Definitely all of us have other music projects and stuff going now, but that's kind of like that's kind of a general overview. Like, yeah, we were it became problematic to be just always associated with like Islam, because
Yeah.
then people are putting their ideas onto you, and
Mhm.
and we're talking these days about all kinds of different representation, whether it's like POC representation in the media, uh, or in politics or whatever. And it's like that's just the start, but I feel like in the post 9/11 stuff, we were maybe in that kind of among those that first post 2001 wave of like, oh, bands that like maybe looked like us or whatever. Does
Mhm.
that make sense? Am I doing
No,
a good
no,
job
no,
of
no,
explaining it?
no, no. It makes perfect
Okay.
sense because it's kind of like, no, I see. I never knew until you just said that how, from the outside looking in, it was just like you said, it was a scene and like it was all light, all lights of the
Mhm.
Caminas. They did all this stuff. There's all this other things going on, but I didn't
Yeah.
know that it was that blown up. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I didn't know that until you
The
just said
cool the
that.
cool thing is, honestly, man, like, I feel like it's really interesting to, observe some of this stuff now. I feel like traditionally, like, old people complain about the way, like, young people do things, but, like, I think people are, like, killing it right now. I
Yeah,
feel like
me too.
where culture is headed and, like, where music and all this stuff is going,
Mhm.
is just so, like, interesting, and, like, there's just there's so many different avenues, and there's so many.
Mhm.
I think people are, at least from my, I feel like people are better at like realizing that they can sort of exist within all of these different identities without them
Mhm.
being clashing. I don't know if, again, I don't know if I'm saying this in the right way, but
It
I
makes
just
perfect
feel
sense.
like, and I'm not trying to say this in a way that it's like, it's always fucking hard as hell to be like a young person, but like,
Yeah.
just from what I've seen as far as some of the, like siblings of some of my musician friends, for example, who are also going into music and stuff, like people are really just kind of more fearless, I think, in a
Mhm.
way that maybe we were trying to be and weren't quite able to navigate. Um, I like to think that maybe, folks like us had something to do with some of that in a small way, but like I'm just like
Yeah.
really blown away with the way things are now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm
It's
talking
much
about
more
bands I've
fun.
seen from, like, young people making music in Pakistan. Like, the Pakistan's hip hop world right now is
Mhm.
fucking incredible.
Yeah.
Like, the shit that's,
Yeah,
like, going
yeah,
on
yeah.
over there,
Yeah, yeah.
is really, really, like, legendary.
Yeah, it's like they didn't like, I mean, seriously, but you said it. We paved the way and
Mhm.
we gave them the confidence and even the template to just be themselves and do what they want to do. You know what I mean? Because you got to look at like,
Yeah.
back in the day, you go to a Bad Brain show and you're going to be probably, one of the few people of color. You go to a Fishbone show, whatever.
Mhm.
It ain't gonna be a bunch of, black folks out there or
Now you look at a band like Turnstile, even though I think they've been around for, like, 10 years, but,
hmm
I think it's really this year, last year, they've really blown the fuck up.
yeah, yeah,
And you look out into their audience, it's like
hmm
all swaths of people.
yeah,
It's
yep, yep,
unbelievable, and they're, like, rocking
yeah,
out to, like,
oh yeah,
riffs.
yeah.
Like, people say, like, rock music is dead or whatever. No, man.
Nah,
Watch, like go follow the band Turnstile and, like, watch one of their concerts. It's, like it's mind-blowing.
yo,
So, they're
I
also
was
do you know
on,
Turnstile? They're, like, a Bal
yeah,
DC area. Yeah, yeah, hell yeah.
yeah, yeah. I was watching a video of it was somewhere in Africa. I don't know where it was, but they were listening to System of a Down, right?
Oh, hell
And
yeah.
they were it was at a wedding. I'm not sure if they're Nigerian. So they were younger,
System of a
probably in
Down at
their,
a wedding.
20s and mid 30s, maybe,
Yeah,
they were young, Well, black don't crack, so I'm sure they don't be what they were, they look like in their 20s, But
yeah.
anyway, they're all singing word for word. Everybody, women, everybody, they're going word for word with System of a Down, rocking out. You know what I'm saying? So,
That's amazing.
this.
Cause System of a Down was, like, one of my first concerts when I was in high school. I was, like,
hmm
15 or 16, so I remember that
Yeah,
vividly.
yeah, they some sick bastards, man. They
Fuck
are
yeah.
they are amazing, man. And so, and so they kind of remind me. They were the latter version as far as being um that type of outspoken, that type of smart, the type of musically just
Yeah, like, it was
they were
them
there.
with, like, Rage Against the Machine, kinda
Exactly,
like
that's
that
exactly what I had to say. Yeah,
era.
it was like
Yeah,
Rage, and then they were like the
totally.
next step
Yeah.
after Rage. Because I remember when Rage first came out,
Oh,
no
man.
matter where you went around, because that time I was in college, everybody had that damn album. Everybody and their
Now
mama. I think them.
it's funny you
Mm,
bring them right, we were talking about Rage, and we were talking about, like, growing up in, like, a white suburb or whatever.
mhm.
I was obsessed with Rage because I was obsessed with their guitar player. Dude, I
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
had the privilege of being this, like, upper middle class kid. I didn't I never paid like, I knew what the lyrics were,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
even think about them.
yeah,
And I tell this story sometimes that there was this kid in my high school, his name was Don. This kid wore a Rage shirt every single day. And
yeah.
he knew, like, in the Evil Empire album, they have all those books. They're
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah,
basically
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
just read all these books.
Yeah, just
This
read
kid had
it.
actually read all those books, and the
Uh-huh.
fucking, like, the other, like, jockey kids in my high school gave him so much shit for, like
Mhm.
for that kinda stuff, but, like,
Mhm.
it wasn't until later on when, like, all of a sudden my identity is, like, you know,
Mhm.
um under fire that I'm like, "Oh, this is like Rage has been talking." You know what I mean? And
Yeah, this is
so
what they're
in that
talking
way, like,
about.
I'm not saying look, that's just how it was. Like, I
Yeah,
wanted to, like, write some badass riffs, so I'm
yeah,
just, like, studying Tom Morello and all of his
yeah,
guitar settings and stuff.
yeah,
But,
yeah, 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 yeah,
but the band can exist and then be, like, reborn on this whole other
yeah,
thing too, so,
yeah.
yeah.
That that Rage Against the Machine was literally like you taking Public Enemy,
Mm,
the everything behind what Public Enemy was about, and just throwing it on a rock scene, on a rock band. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I They were huge influence on me. Actually, I had four major lyrical influences: Bob Marley, Chuck D, and believe it or not, Bono from U2. The reason why I say Bono is
Wow.
because, yeah, I know people say that, man, but I've seen, I think, U2 twice. I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Really?
Yeah, and the thing, and I listen to all the old
Dude, I don't care
U2
what
records.
anybody that
So
band is sick.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
Like,
yeah, 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 yeah,
hell
yeah.
yeah.
I listened to him. I think the last album, which is still one of my favorite, I still listen to it now, was Uptown Baby. But
Mhm.
um, when I saw them live, that's when Bono was doing that. He had some alter ego when he would go in the back and dress out. He
And
looked
it
like a
come out as like
Joker.
a fly?
No, no, he was Manifesto. I think that was his name, Manifesto or something like that.
Oh,
He
okay.
had like a paint on his face or something like that. Anyway,
Okay.
so I'm watching him in DC at the I think it was at the time it was RFK Stadium if I'm not mistaken. Um,
Okay.
he comes out here. I think it might have been his Europa tour. He comes out in this full on attire, face painted, changed his clothes, everything, and he comes out and he's like a completely different person. You know, you wouldn't know it was Bono unless you would have known it was Bono. He looked different,
Yeah.
and he was just acting. He was like he was putting on a performance. You know what I mean? And the reason why I say that about that aspect, because like, yeah, you can say all this, but you still got to sell the show. You still got to, you know what I mean? You got to, as
Yeah.
a front man, you got to, be a front man, and that was very impressive for me as a young man to see what Bono did. You know what I mean? Just take
Mhm.
control of the crowd. You know what I mean? Even when they were younger, all that stuff in Red Rocks when he was out there playing, and at Red Rocks and under the blood red sky and all that stuff. Just
Mhm.
taking over the crowd, man. A MC. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
A
man.
microphone
Hell yeah.
controller, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah. But anyway, so now, wait a minute, hold on a second. Where we at? Because we were talking about your the oh the music, yeah. So what was now this is something new as well. Well, let me backtrack because I have to say we were talking about this before we came on. I was telling I was on the side. I was like I forgot how good y'all were, the Caminas, because I was listening and I was just telling him this story beforehand. I always like to when I do my posts and stuff, I like to put music on my stories and stuff, so give it a little
Right.
ambiance. So I was like, wait a minute, Caminas have music. So I went through this and what song
That's
was it
it's
that I picked?
funny. I know you didn't mean it that way, but that's actually like I think that was one of our frustrations back in the day. Was like Kamina's like we have music, like we
Yeah,
have
yeah, yeah,
albums
yeah,
worth of music, and
yeah,
everybody knows like one song that we did,
yeah. Hmm.
which and they think there is. But yeah, that's it's just funny that you said that.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
know
What
that you
song?
did not mean it like that at all, but
Yeah, yeah,
that's like
yeah. What
literally
song
yeah.
was it? What song was it?
Sharia
I
law
said
in the USA. That was
no,
that
no, no,
was
no,
the one
no,
that
no.
everybody was like thought that
Oh,
was
that
the
was it.
only song we ever wrote or
Oh,
whatever.
okay, I got you.
So,
But what was the
yeah.
song that I
I
put
mean,
on
it's
it
a
that I
dope
like?
song. I'm not saying
No,
it's,
it is, it is, it
but
is.
yeah,
I like it. No, what is the
yeah.
song that I put on? What was it?
Eid
Eid
Mubarak. Yeah,
Mubarak. That's the one I put on. So I'm
yeah,
sitting there and I'm listening. I'm going to a couple tracks. I was like, okay, this sounds cool. I'm listening to my phone at the time, and I'm like, this sounds cool. But I'm driving somewhere, and I said, let me listen to it on the speakers. And I'm listening to speakers. I'm like, oh damn, you know what I'm saying? I was like, and I literally, I was just, damn, I forgot they really were good. Because I'm thinking about all the experiences and stuff. And then I went to YouTube and I saw the same song. They did a live video at somebody's apartment and stuff. And I was like
yeah,
analyzing it, musician nerds. I was analyzing the two guitars that they were playing, and Al
yeah,
Bosnick's
yeah.
playing bass and singing. I
Actually,
was
just to
all,
further your music nerd stuff, so that video that is actually a recorded live performance. So
oh
that's actually not even the same one that you have on the track. That was an actual live recording. So yeah, yeah.
wow, y'all have some pretty decent gear, don't you? Y'all had some pretty decent
I
gear.
mean,
Yeah. Okay.
yes and no in some
Uh.
ways. I've been playing the same guitar for 16 years. I got it for 300 bucks. I mean, I have some others, but that's the one I the red one that I play all the time. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
The recording came real good, and the guitar sound sounded really
That
good.
was a
That's
dude named
why.
Yusuf who
Hmm.
started this thing called he's one of the founding members, sorry, of this group called the Mipsters, which is kind of like a
Hmm.
fusion of the Muslim and hipster. So they
I got
started
you.
their own little scene. They've actually got some really really interesting shit going now. But that was their kind of one of their first um like videos and like events. So this is back in I think 2015 or 2016 when our Stereotype album came out.
Hmm.
So yeah, shout
Yeah.
out Yusuf.
Yeah. Yeah, shout out Yusuf, because y'all
Yeah.
like I literally like I figured it was live, just
Yeah.
because the lyrics itself were syncing up to the music then better than. I mean, it would have been y'all did a hell of a
Yeah.
job lip singing if you know what I mean. If if it
Yeah, yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
live, I kind of figured that. But when I was taught the guitar sound and everything, the sound overall, especially for live recording, I was like, yeah. And that's when I was like, yeah, I forgot how good y'all were because I had to go
Thank you,
back in
man.
my mind, my memory banks of seeing y'all play live for
Yeah,
all those
definitely those
times.
those years we became, I think we become a lot stronger just from the reps, man, especially when
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
touring as much as we were,
Oh yeah, yeah,
back then. You just remain tight, you know? Even more
yeah, yeah,
recently, like
yeah,
I was telling you, we just did a show after years of not doing a show, and the cool thing is, like, we're still friends, we can kinda get together the night before,
yeah,
run
yeah,
through
yeah.
19 songs, and just it's still in you no matter
Yeah,
what.
exactly.
So,
It doesn't leave like riding a
I'll
bike. You're
remember
right,
those
man.
songs as long as I live. So,
Exactly. So
you know
peep this. Um, we live in America, and I always like to say 10% of Americans have passports. So that means that 90% have been outside of the United States and not really seen how the world is around
wow, I know
outside of
is that
this.
is that the figure?
Yeah,
Wow.
that's what they say, 10%. Okay. So I mean, think about it. It makes sense when you think about the mindsets of
Yeah.
a lot of folks. So
Yeah, yeah.
I say that to say this. The negative responses to being this. What type of negative reception did you get to all this
To what?
to the communities? The Islamic, just that whole thing,
Negative.
or was there?
Oh, the negative. I mean, honestly, just standard dumb racist shit. I mean, nothing
Yeah,
particularly interesting,
same old, same old.
whatever yeah, whatever you might think. I mean, yeah, I don't think I mean, the only difference I suppose would have been like and this was also overblown, I mean, honestly, like, we weren't, like, that big, so it's not like people were like, "Oh
Yeah,
my god, you're gonna piss off all these, like, Muslims," but, like, nobody I mean, like, we weren't that important, like, it's
yeah,
not like
yeah.
we were U2 or something that everybody
Mhm.
fucking knows, definitely, like, I will say, like, amongst a certain, uh group of people do still like, I can go to some party with a bunch of Pakistani kids, and people will be like, "Oh,
Mhm.
Kaminas, I've heard of you guys.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah,
pretty
yeah,
cool."
yeah.
Um, but, I mean, the only negative shit was like, yeah, I mean, my dad was like, "Dude, just be careful, don't say dumb shit." Like, you know? Actually, is this No, I mean, yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah, nothing,
At the
nothing out
time,
of
it
the.
would have felt like, "Oh, man," like, um yeah, I mean, journalists would ask stupid questions like, you know, what is it like to like be a Muslim and play music? Just like, but yeah, you know, just boring shit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Not literally probably from what you growing up, nothing that you haven't never heard before. You know what
I
I mean?
remember on one tour, I mean, I can tell like a stupid story. Like, definitely for sure, we were talking about borders and stuff. Like, we definitely got harassed at borders.
Hmm.
We definitely all got extra searches and seizures, and some scary shit happened to Bassem. He wrote a piece about it in the Boston Globe.
Hmm.
Um, but racial profiling at airports wasn't just happening to us. I mean, it was
Yeah, yeah,
happening
yeah.
to kind of anybody that was like remotely brown or whatever. But and again, that's not to downplay it. And I feel like maybe I've just I hope that this is me trying to like I'm a very happy kind of positive person right now, and maybe I'm trying my best not to like downplay how serious it was, but
Hmm.
in hindsight, just that kind of stuff when it happens to you over and over again, you kind of just are just like, this is just, you
Yeah.
know, what
It's
it
whack, man. Yeah,
just
yeah.
fucking yeah.
Yeah, it's whack. Yeah, I talk
Yeah.
about that in my book. Just like people, I don't think people understand.
You send me your book? You said you were gonna send me your book. You know, you send me that shit?
Um, Thanks for reminding me. I had a lot going on, but
It's all good.
yeah, thanks for
It's
reminding
okay,
me. I'll
man.
send it. I got it right here. You know what I'm
It's
saying?
okay, man.
It's coming your
No
way. I
worries.
appreciate it. Um,
Uh,
but yeah, yeah, I talk about that and I'll talk about it all the time. It's like when you're black in America, you feel like you have a gorilla on your back with a target on the back of it. every day. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And once you do move outside of the country and go to other places, it does diminish some. I definitely didn't feel that way as bad when I lived in London. You know, but
Oh, when did you live in London?
um, I was what? So it'd have been 98, 98ish. Yeah, it was a while back. Yeah, I lived there for like six months.
Where in London did you live?
I started in Stockwell. It was like two train stop from Brixton. You know what I'm saying? On
Okay.
the
Yeah,
south
yeah, yeah, hell
side,
yeah. Of course.
and I ended up in Earl's Court. I know that sounds funny, but yeah,
Wow.
I ended up in
Yeah,
Earl's
man,
Court just
London
because
is
I
one
was.
of our favorite places to play.
Yeah, I stayed in hostels. That's why there was such
Gotcha.
a difference. 'Cause see, people, if you haven't been there, he probably knows. But like in Atlanta, it would be like the equivalent to living in the West End, that being Stockwell, and moving to um, Canton or Buckhead, either way you want to look at it, in Atlanta. That's like for people that can relate. Big difference, you know what I'm saying? Like what Manhattan in certain places, the Manhattan in Brooklyn, you know what I
Mhm,
mean? Like just big difference. You know what I mean? But yeah. So anyway, what I'm saying is just getting outside of that and getting outside and seeing the world. You just realize that everybody doesn't have the American racist mentality. You know what I mean? It's
right.
something. Yeah, it's something that's. And I learned that about white people. Believe it or not. I'm sure that
Mhm,
you. And that's why I learned too. I was like, every time I saw a white person in London, from where I don't care if they're Australia, whatever the case may be, I talked to them, and I'd be like, I would expect them in my mind to be like the white, the rednecks in back in Virginia, whatever, but it
mhm,
wasn't the case. You know what I mean? I
mhm.
met people South Africa. They would tell me about like what's going on in South Africa with the struggle. I've never been to South Africa. They live there. You
Yeah.
know, so all those
I think definitely you
perspectives.
find that people outside of America just have um, maybe more of a sense of, like, their place in the world,
Yeah, I
whereas
agree.
here, folks maybe choose to be a little more choose to be a little more isolated, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
So, yeah, I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that's
That's what I'm saying. That was my point. It's a big difference when you look at. It's like kind of looking at life in an American history perspective as opposed to a world history perspective. You know what I mean?
mhm,
You're gonna have a much more open mind when coming from a broader perspective. And
mhm,
that's how I just came across me with different people. No matter what color you were,
mhm,
if you were educated and you were open minded, then you know
mhm,
met a lot of good folks from all different hues, genders, all that. What I'm saying,
mhm.
I'm like you. I'm a happy person. You know what I'm saying? I like peace and love. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Real talk. But I've just realized there's good people on this planet and there's bad people, and they all got different skin suits on. You know,
mhm,
real simple in my look. You know what I'm saying? So
mhm.
so you're doing the music thing. So now this we haven't talked in a while, so this is going to be brand new to me. How in the world did you get into acting or voiceover and all that stuff? Because I'm like, look at it.
Oh,
You sending
man.
me these links and stuff. I'm like, wait a minute. Now
It's
granted,
funny,
you got
dude,
the look, man.
it's
You got the
funny,
look. So.
so, actually, so, I mean, I was an actor as a kid, definitely in,
Hmm.
middle school and stuff, doing plays and that kinda thing, um, and then, the band stuff started, but actually, it was again, I must give my props to Mr. Michael Knight because he convinced Audible to let me be the narrator for to basically to be the narrator for his book,
Oh,
Tacuacores.
okay.
So, I mean, he convinced them, and also the guy heard my voice and he liked my
Yeah, yeah,
voice or
yeah.
whatever, but it was definitely, because Mike was like, I'm pretty sure Mike was just like, "Oh, I have this friend, he's got a great voice."
Hmm.
And so by accident, I kind of did this really cool thing. Then I didn't really, like, follow through, but it and then, around the time, so I left the Caminas for about 4 years to get
Hmm.
sober,
Hmm.
and in doing so, I, reawakened a lot of other passions and stuff that I had, one of which was acting.
Hmm.
I joined I started to go to, AA meetings, NA meetings and stuff, and then I found, a local theater troupe in Boston that, hired actors that were actually in recovery to do small kind of community-based shows. We'd go to,
Mm.
like, mostly high schools and middle schools and stuff, and just do very simple shows, dealing with addiction and stuff, but it kind of
Mhm.
reawakened the acting thing,
Mhm.
and then I just kinda got an agent out here, started going out for small things like corporate videos and, little commercials
Mm.
here and there, and then slowly kind of worked my way into this stuff, and yeah, man, now actually voiceover is, like, my main career, actually.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I do audiobooks and different things, and then I also this year has been, a pretty big kinda acting year for me as well. I've done 2
Mhm.
kinda big movies with, like, pretty substantial roles, and, I'm finally have gotten, like, a manager and stuff, and so I'm starting to get, like, more opportunities and stuff, and so we'll see where it goes. So that's
Hey.
kinda how it happened, but yeah, I'm definitely somebody that, like, uh and, I'm still doing tons of music, like, I joined another band in Providence called Ravi Shavi,
Mhm.
where, we play all the time. It's a different sort of a vibe from Caminas, but we're actually old friends from our kinda touring days and stuff.
Mhm.
So it's just and I've been involved with other musical projects and stuff, and, um, so yeah, I'm finally at a place where, like, I kinda always wanted to be this, like, multifaceted creative person, I
Yeah.
just didn't know how to go about doing it. So yeah, I'm actually when you make me say it this way, I'm fucking psyched, but, it's not that I don't have my down days and stuff like that, but
Mhm.
yeah.
No, man, I think I think you ran the gambit. You've paid your dues. You know what I'm saying? It's about time for you to
Yeah.
really, yeah, get what you deserve with it, with the hard work, the universe. You put in. It's funny, man. I always talk about this story, man. Like, um, I saw this documentary on Green Day, right?
Oh,
And
hell yeah, which one? Which one?
it was the one, oh god, I can't remember the name of it, but it was the one they were just talking about how when they did that do it yourself world tour, and they were like Billy Joe got lice and everything. Because did you see that one?
No, and I'm
Yeah,
obsessed
yeah,
with
yeah,
Green Day.
yeah.
Dude, I gotta
Well,
watch this.
still, if you ask me, I mean, you hear this all the time. Still, if you ask me, the best pop punk band, pretty much ever. That's my
Oh,
personal
yeah.
opinion. But
There's who
yeah,
could you
yeah,
possibly compare them
yeah,
to?
exactly. That's the way I feel. I mean, there's some some close runner ups, but as far as having
Number
everything, Green Day
number
is
1.
probably the best pop punk band I've pretty
Yep,
much ever heard. But anyway,
I agree.
so what they talked about was how they started, in a garage, and like most of them like quit school and they just kept on playing.
Dude,
But they
there's have you
literally,
seen the videos of them from when they, like,
oh
first
yeah,
started
I've
Green
seen
Day?
it.
If you
I've
go on
seen it.
YouTube and when they're playing in, like
Yeah,
in,
high
like,
school.
colleges and stuff. Yeah, and they're good.
Man, they're
They're
good
tight
then,
as
man.
hell
Yeah,
back
yeah, yeah,
then. Yeah,
man. Well, that's kind
yeah,
of where I'm going at with all this.
yeah,
Um, and so they just stuck with it, man.
yeah.
From the same. Well, I mean, of course they had the original drummer, but once um they all came together as that trio. They talk about a story about how they hit the road. They did their own do-it-yourself tour. They just played everywhere they could, all over the world.
Mhm.
And in doing that, they got home, and then the record distribution, because they were on lookout at the time, they
That's right.
couldn't get the records out, to everywhere, right?
Yeah.
But they started just from all that hard work, you know what I'm saying? All that hard work they put, they got their
Mhm.
name out there all over the world. And next thing they signed this big deal with a reprise. And next thing you know, and I talk about this too. Like, you remember that song "Jar" that was on the Angus do 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 dun 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 dun
I think
dun dun
so.
dun
Yeah,
dun 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 dun. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, that's when they made that transition from Lookout to be
To
to
reprise.
Dookie. Yeah, the
Oh,
reprise. Yeah,
right, right, right. Okay. So
yeah.
Kerplunk, right, to Dookie? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. So you can hear the difference musically with equipment
right.
and everything. You know what I'm saying? You can completely
Yeah.
hear, because it's that s-
And that's when,
kerplunk.
like, their Gilman Street fans are like, "Nah, fuck that. These guys
Yeah,
aren't punk anymore."
exactly. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
But just I still remember now the first second I put that Dookie album in and press play, and
Oh, yeah, that was the first cassette I ever bought.
yeah, I just remember hearing that and just being like, I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
And that album was like, and I still like some of the stuff today. You know what I mean?
Oh, hell
But
yeah. I listened to Dookie, Insomniac, all the way through
mhm,
American Idiot, actually,
yeah.
still to this day.
Yeah, I actually like the Jesus Suburbia. I thought that was actually pretty
Oh,
good
yeah.
too. Yeah, and I thought that
Yeah,
whole
I
album
agree.
concept and everything,
Yeah,
and they've always kept the punk rock mentality. They've always been aware and conscious. You know what I mean, of world
yeah,
views. You know what I mean. They
yeah,
always.
yeah, for sure.
Anyway, my point is that they put in all that hard work, man. All that
Yeah,
hard work, years of just working, working, working,
yeah,
and they deserve to be where they're at because they put in the work. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Same thing with you, man. You've been bullied. You've been all these different things. You've been all these different things you've gone through, and now
Mhm.
you deserve it, bro. It's your time to shine, man. So embrace it. I'm sure
I
you
mean, I
are, but
appreciate it, thank you.
yeah,
The
man,
work
it's your time to
honestly,
shine.
the work doesn't stop, and it's like I feel like it's only now that I understand the journey part of it, because I think I
Yeah,
did have the
exactly.
early experience with
Hmm.
Caminas of just like, "Oh, all of a sudden we're like people are talking about us," and how it's not that's not like that's only like a very small piece of what you're saying is like it's really about redefining what is it that drives you, and like what makes you happy, and what are you going to be able to sustain,
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
so
Yeah,
for sure, dude.
exactly. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's like I already know, man. Whatever you're gonna do, you're gonna be great at it, man. Just once you real big time and you're in Hollywood, go ahead and first don't sell your soul to the devil. That's number one. But number two is give me a premier, give me some premier tickets. On your. I
Of
call it. Look,
course, dude.
I, yeah. First, I called it right now. So I'm gonna record this. Since it's recorded, I'm
You
gonna
got it. You got
yeah,
the
I'm
evidence.
gonna
Yeah,
remind you, just like you remind me to
sounds
send you
good.
my book. So I got the evidence.
Of course. Hell yeah,
Man, this is great, my brother. You know what I'm saying? What
dude. Thank you so
besides,
much.
man, it was my pleasure, man. Any other projects you want to tell the world about? You know what I'm saying? What you got going on right now?
Yeah, so I'm just in the middle of season 2 of my show King of the World. I've actually
Hmm.
started the interviews. It's really super exciting. I can't talk too much about it, like on a recorded format. I'm happy to tell you at some other time.
Hmm.
Um, we're really super excited about it. It's still going to follow the narrative structure in some ways of season 1, but it's just basically something I'm just like crazy excited about. My band Ravi Shovey, we just did a string of shows last week. We're definitely going to be doing more. Hopefully, Caminos will be doing some shows later this year as well.
Hmm.
Um, I'm trying to get on some more movies and TV shows, so maybe you'll see me on those. Maybe a couple of the movies I did this year will be out soon, so you'll be able to see me there. Yeah, I'm just really looking forward to the next year of my
Yeah,
life.
I'm trying. I will be getting back into music as well. So once that go completely manifest, I'm gonna hit you up. We have to maybe hit the
Yeah,
road
let's
again,
do some
right?
shows, man. Hell yeah,
What I'm saying?
absolutely.
I got the hook up in Virginia and New York, and you got it in New York, Boston, Atlanta. We'll
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
do
Let's
a
do
little
it.
East Coast tour again. But yeah,
Sounds
man, this
good.
was an honor, man. You know what I'm
Thank you.
saying? And always, man, everybody, your whole crew, the community crew, Blossom. You know what I'm saying? All them cats, man. Loved every second we were on the road with y'all and experiencing everything, conversations. Mike Muhammad. I've been trying to actually. I lost Mike. Hey, tell Mike hit me up. I don't
For
know. I
sure.
lost his number.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm
I'll
saying?
if you
Yeah.
want, I'll ask him if he's down. I'll connect you
Yeah, yeah,
two.
yeah. Because
Yeah,
I wanted to holler him on this as well.
for sure.
But yeah. I've, yeah, man. But besides that, man, this was a wonderful conversation, man. I was so as soon as I saw you, I was like, I gotta get my man Charge on there. I gotta get him on there. We gotta talk. You know what I'm saying? I want to get Bossum too. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he's around. Hit
Yeah.
him up
Yeah. All the cats, man, just let them know that we connected, and we'll and they got my number and everything. We'll go from there. You know what I'm
for sure,
saying?
man.
But
All right, buddy.
besides that, man, yeah, man, this is the Polka Dot Rabbit podcast. You know what I'm saying? Like I said already, if you haven't, please go to Polka Dot Rabbit podcast. This is his book. You can't have it. I got to send it to him. I got the address
Everybody buy
in
this
my
book.
phone. Yeah, yeah, everybody buy the book. Yeah, indeed. Go to polka dot rabbit podcast.com. That's it. You know what I'm saying? for me tonight, and my man, my great man Shaj, man, and keep an eye out for him. You know what I'm saying? All his information is in the description. You know what I'm saying? He's gonna be doing some big things, and I can't wait to get my front row seat at his premiere. You know what I mean? But I will not be going to the after party. You know what I mean? Not the after party. Not the after party when when you got to slit your to get in the door you
Oh
got
my
to slit
god.
your wrist and all that
I
good
don't know
stuff.
what the hell party you're talking about, dude.
You'll
I'll
learn.
be
You'll
asleep.
learn,
I'll
son.
be asleep.
You'll learn, son. But
All right, man. Thank you so
be good,
much.
man. Peace and
See
love,
ya.
everybody. You're out.
Bye bye.